Good morning to one and all. Today we are going to speak about the topic functions in C++. Already functions basic uh, we have discussed about the topic. Now here we are going to discuss about in functions important concept call by value and call by references. See, suppose that is same value, original value. If we are going to modify the original value, if we modified the original values, it is divided into two types of the functions as call by value and call by reference. Suppose original value is modified, if it is correctly modified, it is an call by reference, because in call by reference we are addressing address of the values are modified. Here just value is modified, so if modified, yes, call by reference, no means it is a call by values. First we can think about what is function call. How we are going to call a function, what type of arguments are there. Function call, value of arguments passed to the formal arguments. Any change made in the formal arguments does not affect the actual arguments. When function is called, it does not affect the actual contents of the actual arguments. So what is this? In function, uh, we are calling the values with parameters and the arguments. What is parameters? What is argument? In function, in bracket, we are passing the values by arguments or parameters. So in that, two types of arguments are there. We have formal arguments and actual arguments. So in brief, we can discuss about what is actual argument and what is formal argument. Here, what we are doing is, when we are calling the functions, the value of arguments passed to the formal arguments. So that is, what is the value? Suppose x value, y values, those variables, what values it is carrying, those values are passed. Those values are passed to the arguments. That type of arguments is known as formal arguments. Next, any change made in the formal argument does not affect the formal. It is absolutely. That is, there are two types of arguments. So if you are going to change the values in formal arguments, that does not affect the actual argument itself. When function is called, it does not affect the actual contents of the actual argument. Same as content also, it does not differ. Next, function call. A function must be called by its name followed by arguments list enclosed in semicolon. So this is the type what are all we are going to follow the rules for that function. First, function can be called by its name. That is, it is what we are assigning the name is function name is user defined. It is an user defined. Whatever function name as our programmer wish we can give. That is function. Next, after that, it will be as an user friendly function name is followed, and inside that we have given arguments list. In the argument list, we can define what are all variables we are going to use inside the function. So what are the variables going to use the function? It is a local variable that can be used only inside the functions. Local variables are variables which can be used only inside the function. Suppose for example, function name add, we are going to do addition operation. So we need here two or three variables to add the numbers. So we are going to declare in the arguments list as an integer a comma integer b. Just we are adding two variables a and b. So have to declare. So those variables are local variables and can be used only inside the function. So this is enclosed in the semicolon, that argument. Next, function call invokes the function. Yes. What is a function call? So what function yeah, we are going to call by values, what it is, we are going to invoke the function. When function invoke, the compiler jumps to the called function to execute the sample. So where we are directing the function call, where we are directing the call by value or call by reference, where we are calling, the compiler directly jumps to the where the function we called to execute those statements when we are giving inside the function. So as soon as the function call, the compiler goes to the corresponding functions and start execution what we gave inside the function. So it starts executes the statement inside the function. Once called, function is executed. Program control passes back to the calling function. So what all the statement inside the functions, it is started to the execution. After that, so this will be the syntax. Function name, in bracket we can give parameter list or argument list. For example, to call square function, functions that we are using like this. So these are the actual and the formal arguments. What is actual arguments? Arguments passed to the function call are known as an actual argument. Then for formal arguments, the arguments we use during the function are known as a formal argument. So actual argument just it pass the arguments, that it just pass the what are the variables inside having, what are the values they are having. So just we are passing the function, passing the argument, that it is known as an actual argument. But in formal arguments, we are using that argument inside the function. While something function execution, statement is execution, we are using that formal arguments. Concept of the actual and formal arguments. For a function call to the valid the type, order and number, actual and formal must be used. Value of each of actual arguments in the calling further is copied into the formal arguments is called. Changes made have no effect of the values arguments. So if we are when you are calling the function, actual and formal arguments must be in same number. Next, value of the actual argument should be copied to the formal argument. So when we are calling the function, next, whatever if we are making the changes, definitely does not affect the function call. Next, C++ programming to demonstrate the function call. It is a call by values. This is an header file using namespace statement functions to change value of x. Here we are using the functions to change the value of x. So we are first to see the program. Integer function in bracket integer x we are calling. So this is the function name fun, it is a function name. So what is then argument and parameters is we are declaring x to the integer. Now here inside the function two statements are there. One statement is we are incrementing the x values, x plus equal to 1, and we are going to return the value. This is the function intent. Next driver code, then main execution. In main function we are initializing x is equal to 3, cout value of x before modifying x order value. So x order value will be the 3 before modifying. After that what we are doing, x is equal to function x. So here we are calling the function by values. So when we call function x, the compiler just jumps to the function here. The compiler just jumps to the integer function. Next, if we call here, what we are doing is we are incrementing the x value and returning the value of the x. So cout value of the x after modifying it changes to the, now initially the x order value is initialized to 3. After that we are incrementing the values 3 plus 1, it will be 4. So the output will be value of x before modifying will be 3, and after modifying, that is after calling the functions, inside the functions we are incrementing the x values from 3 to 3 plus 1 4. So value of x after modifying will be 4. So this is the simple execution part, how we are call by values. Simple concept. Here values of actual parameters will be copied to the formal parameters and these two different parameters stores values in the different location. Now we can see by using some examples. First here we are declaring integer x is equal to 10, then y is equal to 20. Here we are using functions and we are using the call by value concept. Here we are calling x comma y. In printf x is equal to percentage %d, y we are printing x comma y. So here what will be the output? X is equal to 10, y is equal to 10, y is equal to 20. Here in integer function what we are doing? Integer x comma integer y. So here we are doing x is equal to 20 and y is equal to 10. These x and y, here what we are doing, it is a local variable. That is, inside the functions we are calling these variable. So here what it is? Here integer x comma integer y. This x differs from this x and y. Here we are function x comma y is an actual parameters. These actual parameters are passed to the functions. This will be the formal parameters. So these are the x and y are the actual parameters, then will be copied to the formal parameters. So what we are doing is, here we are declaring separately integer x comma integer y. So here we are initializing the variable as x is equal to 20 and y is equal to 10. So what will be the output? Here this is differentiated by the x and y as an yellow color and this is differentiated by the green color. So these values as 10 and 20. This x and y values is 20 and 10. This will be the output. Next we can see about the difference between call by value versus call by reference. So what is call by value and call by reference? First point, call by value means we are calling the variables values. Here will be the call by reference address will be called. While calling a functions, when you pass values by copying variables, it is known as the call by values. That is, we are passing the actual parameters to the formal parameters. That is, we are passing values by copying variables. Next, in call by reference, what we are doing is, while calling a function in the programming language, instead of copying the values of variable, the address of the variables is used. It is known as call by. In call by values, we are copying the variables and a value is passed. In call by references, we are calling the address of the variables. Address of the variables is passed from one parameters to the other parameters. Second, in this method, copy of the variable is passed, but in reference, the variable itself is passed. So here only copy of the variable is passed. In reference, we are passing the variable itself. In third point, values of variables are passed using a straightforward method. So we can easily calling as actual parameters to the formal parameters. So straightforward method, the values of variables are passed. Call by reference, pointer variables are required to store the address of the variable. In call by reference, we are passing the address of the variable from one to another. So here for that, to store the address of the variable, pointer variables are used. Next, in call by value, original value is not modified. There is no changes in the original value, but here original values will be changed because we are calling the address of the variable. Next, actual and formal arguments will be created in different memory location, call by value. Then in call by reference, actual arguments are not safe. They can be accidentally modified, so you need to handle arguments operation carefully. So here that is original value, it is modified. So original values it won't be there. So actual arguments are not safe. So we are going to modify the values. So it could be under the separate arguments. Then default in many programming language like C++, PHP, Visual.net, here it is used. Supported for mostly on Java but not as a default. Call by reference. In this method, instead of passing the values of actual parameters to formal, the address of the actual parameters of so in call by values that actual parameters are changed to the formal parameters. We are copying the variables in during the function execution, but in call by reference we are the actual parameters to the formal ones, that is the address of the variable is passed. Next, when the programmable options for call by reference, the memory space for formal parameters, actual parameters are the same. So for both these, there will be the same memory location. All the operations in the functions are performed on the values stored at the address of the actual parameters, and modified values get stored in the same address. See one example. Header file using namespace. So we are going to see one example as an swapping void swap integer star a, that is pointer variable. So in function call by value we are just using function name and inside integer a comma integer b. So the normal values can be used, but here pointer variable is used. So integer star a as a pointer variable a and pointer variable rb is used. Integer temp equal to a and pointer variable a is equal to b. Again we are b is equal to. This is the concept for the swapping concept. Then main function integer x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 10. X is equal to y and y equal to 10. See before swapping means what will be, actually these two variables will be printed, x is equal to 5 and x is equal to 10 before swapping. After swapping, when we call the function swap, here this is then address of the variable ampersand. It is used for the ampersand x comma ampersand y, ampersand x comma ampersand y. When we call this function, it directly goes to the function. There we are using the pointer variable as a and b. That is, here that same values are modified to the other values. Now after swapping, x is equal to will be 10 and y is equal to 5. X and y values are modified.